Hello, welcome to the Meritage in-room tasting flight featuring our lovely winery, Trinitas Cellars. We're so glad you could join us. Welcome to the Meritage and Vista Colina Resorts in the beautiful Napa Valley. We're gonna take you through an awesome flight here featuring my family's winery, Trinitas Cellars. We're located right on site. Our tasting room's at the Vista Colina Resort, just downstairs from your guest room. We're open daily, so come on down. We've got multiple different wines, including the ones we're going to try today, and many, many others that we have to enjoy. My name is Garrett Busch. I'm the CEO and proprietor of Trinitas Cellars, and I'm joined with my friend Sean Haarberg here, who's our VIP hospitality manager. He's also our awesome in-house sommelier. So he's going to be teaching us some of the great stuff about some of these wines today. So we're about to have some fun. But to start off, I wanted to give you a little introduction to who we are. We're a small family winery based here on property. My parents, Tim and Steph, founded the winery back in 2002. And I've been running the winery since 2010. Like we said, we have a great tasting room right here on property. That you can come and join us. And we've been located here since 2007. So unique location. And I'm actually calling in from our estate vineyard here, which if you are lucky to be in one of the rooms with a view of the vineyard, you're looking right at it. So we make predominantly our estate Meritage from this gorgeous vineyard. So the 5 Bordeaux varietals are here. So Trinitas, Latin for Trinity, is where that name comes from. And if you look at our logo and our slogan, it's sun, soil, and humanity. So the trinity of elements that go into making great wine. And you might ask, gee, why has this winery been located at the Meritage and now at Vista Colina for over 10 years? Well, our family, like many other winery families, have started somewhere else in business, and our main business is hospitality. So we're very proud and fortunate to call the Meritage in Vista Colina one of our hotel assets. And we're just excited to have the opportunity to partner two of our loves, wine and hospitality, together for all of your enjoyment. So, we've been around, like I said, since 2002, and we're going to walk through 4 of our kind of core wines. The Sauvignon Blanc, the Chardonnay, a fun blend called Mysteriama, and also the Meritage. And but these are only 4 of the wines that we make. We make multiple different single vineyard Cabernet Sauvignons, some other Chardonnays. We also do some fun old vine varietals, which will introduce you to some of them in the Mysteriama, such as Zinfandel. And so I encourage you to come down and see us and see all of what we're about. So before we get started, and Sean, jump in if I miss anything here, but let's talk a little bit about, how we want to go through tasting the wine. So, there's really 3 key senses when we're talking about tasting wine that you want to be zeroed in on: sight, taste, and smell. And so you want to actually start with sight. And I always recommend, if you have a white piece of paper, white linen, a napkin, something like that, anything with a very white background, use that and take your glass and sort of put it right up against it. Especially when you talk about a white wine like this, it's very helpful to have that background. You want to see, what kind of color. So, what kind of colors and such, Sean, you want to be looking for when you're looking at wine?
Well, for white wine or wine in general, you want to see how dark the color is. If it's a red wine, if you can see through it, maybe read the words on a paper through it, like we're looking down at it right now. The thinness of the rim, like the clear part around the rim of the wine, will tell you certain things, the age of the wine, and how concentrated it might be. There's a lot of information in just looking at the wine, but basically the color, you want it to be a beautiful color. This is like a light straw color for the Sauvignon Blanc. Just looks beautiful.
Awesome. So that's what you want to look at. And obviously, when you get into red wines, we'll be talking about this when we get into the 2 that we have today. That's going to tell you even more, because with red, there's typically a larger spectrum of kind of, some reds that are transparent, like maybe a light Pinot Noir, to, your dark reds where it doesn't matter how white your background is, you're not going to be able to see through the wine, right? So then the second sense you really want to focus on, I know everyone wants to get to the tasting, but it's important to use all of our senses, right? Is smell. And actually, a lot of our taste comes from the smells. And so, what you want to do, assuming you've got the proper glass, you want to make sure that there's an inward curve. Otherwise, what I'm about to tell you, you're going to have wine spilled all over, which you don't want. You want it to end up in your mouth. But you see people swirling, right? You go, oh, it's like wine people. Well, there's a purpose for that. When you do that, really what your smell is the volatile esters that are in the wine, the thing that actually goes into your nose and you can actually helps you smell it. When you swirl, yeah, you're oxygenating the wine. That's a different deal. That's also important. But for today, it's about getting those volatile esters, those molecules up into the glass here, so that then you can get your nose in. And what you want to do is rest the glass right on your upper lip and let it gently touch your upper lip and take a nice whiff in. And that'll give you, right after you swirl, the most full aroma and start thinking about, what things you smell. And don't worry if you can't get into, oh, there's straw and there's blackberry and there's tar and there's all these different things. It can be, wow, it's really fruity, or it's sharp, or it's soft, or whatever, your perception is. There's no wrong answer, but you want to do that. And then lastly is taste. You always want to take a small sip, which we can do right now. And especially if it's your first wine of the day, or it's really important between a white wine and red wine, take a small sip and kind of move it around your mouth, get your tongue coated, your cheeks coated, because every sip that you take, and especially when you're going from nothing to wine, and you're going from a lighter wine to bigger wines, it's changing the chemistry of your mouth. So really the first sip is a reset. You're going to have great flavor. You're going to get taste out of it. But the second sip is when you really are going to get the truest sense, because your mouth has readjusted to the new chemistry. So with that, let's get into the wine. So the 2019 Sauvignon Blanc is what we're going to kick off with. We've been making a version of this wine since 2007. The vineyard is up in Pope Valley, so the far northeast end of Napa Valley. Beautiful area just on the back end of Howell Mountain. It's really warm up there, a lot of clay soil. It's perfect for growing Sauvignon Blanc. We work with the Lambent's vineyard, and the really unique thing about this Sauvignon Blanc is not only that it's beautiful in terms of all the fruit characteristics and everything that you're going to get, but the winemaking of it is a little unique. Typically, and again, I'm generalizing, but the vast majority of Sauvignon Blancs are made in about 3 to 6 months. You pick the fruit, you put it in tank, you ferment it, and then you bottle it, and that's it. And you can get it done as quickly as 3 months, or you can do it up to 6 months. Beyond that, there's really nothing that the aging it in tank is doing. So you want to bottle as quick as possible. We are a little different. We take between 10 and 15% of the Sauvignon Blanc, depending on the vintage, and we actually barrel age it. The rest sits in tank in stainless. That's why you have this bright taste on your palate. But that little bit of Russian oak builds a slight bit of body to this, makes it a little bit richer in both texture and flavor, and also lengthens the finish of the wine. And also, too, you maybe have had a Sauvignon Blanc before that you would say is a little acidic or sharp. This has all the acid that you want to make it an awesome Sauvignon Blanc food pairing wine, very balanced. But that oak just, I find, really rounds out the edges of this wine and makes it really approachable, easy to drink, but still awesome with food. So, Sean, what are you kind of getting on the nose and the flavors here? Because there's a lot going on.
Well, the nose, what I like to say, it's got a bright nose, as Sauvignon Blanc should. But if you could say energetic as a smell, it has like an energetic smell to it. It's lively and bright. You get of course, the grapefruit, a little kiwi note in there as well. And if you really kind of work it, and especially if it warms up a degree or two, you'll get the baking spice notes from the Russian oak that start coming in on the secondary. But the nose, the best word I can think of is just energetic on the nose. It makes me happy and excited.
Yeah, energetic, lively. I mean, this is just a great wine. You can enjoy it, during the day, but it's awesome way to start your dinner as well. And definitely, we always make sure we don't mess this one up. It's one of my dad's favorite wines. But the comment I get a lot is, "Wow, this is like a really unique Sauvignon Blanc. I haven't had a lot like this." And it's not super grassy and green and everything like that style, and it's definitely fruity, but it's not super fruit bomb and then kind of falls out at the finish and more lean. You
Mhm.
kind of get that little richer sense with also some beautiful fruit in there. No real greenness. Not that there's anything wrong with it, just not really our style of Sauvignon Blanc. I like that energetic. That's a good one.
And I like with that little touch of uh, oak on it. It makes it so much more food friendly than a typical Sauv Blanc, which are usually, if you really want to get into food pairings, most Sauv Blancs are good with shellfish and maybe oysters and things like that. But with that little bit of oak, it makes it way more food friendly and broadens that menu to. I've done this with chicken breast, pork chops, and stuff, depending on sauces and whatnot. But it's just great with just a myriad of foods.
Great. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah,
All right. So you want to go into the Chardonnay?
let's do it.
So the Chardonnay, if I had to pick one, this is kind of a staple for Trinitas. We actually didn't make this from day one. We started making this wine in 2007, and my dad always loved Chardonnay and wanted to make a fabulous Chardonnay, and we started doing that in 2007. It comes from Carneros, which is the premium sub-appellation in Napa. Typically, people identify as best area in Napa Valley and one of the best in the world, honestly, to make Burgundian fruit. So Chardonnay being the white Burgundian fruit, and I would say we make this in the very classic California style Chardonnay, but we put our own little spin and unique touches on it. So first, you got to start out with grapefruit. There's just no substitute, and we work with some of the best vineyards in that sub appellation. And so you start with grapefruit, and what we want is we want to build just from day one in the vineyard that richness and fullness of not only body but flavor as well. We want a lot of layers, a lot of things going on, and then the production process, which makes it uniquely California, is we do age it, ferment it actually. So basically, from day one, this wine is being made in oak. So we use predominantly American oak, and then we also mix in some French and Russian oak as well. And because of that, they're all giving different flavors and adding little components to the wine. And then, but we ferment in oak and we stir the lees. The lees are the yeast from the fermentation that once they do their job, they produce alcohol, they fall to the bottom of the barrel, and you stir them. And you go, well, that's kind of weird. They're all done doing their job. No, well, their job's not done in this wine because the lees, when you push them back up into the wine over and over again, they actually build a richer, creamier mouthfeel. So that's one thing. And then when you barrel ferment, you're building a softer palate as well. So when you're adding as much new oak to the wine, and we typically are about 70% new oak, and then the other 30% we've used in a prior vintage. That's a lot of new flavor, new oak for any wine, but even especially for white wine. So you want to add it in, but not have it be overpowering. And so when you ferment in oak, it actually softens the tannins and everything else that you're pulling in from the barrel, and you really just get the really nice kind of sweeter, warmer notes from the barrel, the caramel, the butterscotch, creme brulee, things of that nature. And then we go through a process called malolactic fermentation, which is a secondary fermentation that changes the acidity from malic acid to lactic acid. Lactic being the acid naturally occurring in dairy, the lactic like lactose, right? So then you've got the super creaminess, and so we do 100% malolactic, meaning we convert all of the malic to lactic, and then you get this. People talk about buttery Chardonnays, and you're not going to get so much of that buttery flavor here, But what we mean by that is the texture. It's creamy, it's viscous, it's really rich. And we do that through stirring of the lees, the barrel fermentation, and a lot of it comes from that malolactic fermentation. So Sean, what are your thoughts on the Chardonnay? I know this is one of your favorites.
It is, and I'm a convert. I used to not drink much white wine, let alone Chardonnay, but I drink a ton of our Chardonnay now. It's just it's the best out there. We really have a cult following with this wine. But what I love about it, first of all, notice the color, how the deep gold compared to the Sauvignon Blanc is just gorgeous. But on the nose, of course, you get kind of that baked lemon, like a lemon pie thing going on, and of course honeycomb and beeswaxy. And again, the secondary, you start getting the vanilla out of there, and with all that oak, it's just a gorgeous nose. And then the palate, it's everything you want from a big Napa Chardonnay or Carnero Chardonnay, and then some. I mean, just like Garrett was talking about, the mouthfeel of this just coats your palate just like a warm blanket. It's just a terrific wine. Never gets old.
Yeah, it's like I said, one of our staples, and some people nickname it the butterscotch bomb, but that's definitely a really fun flavor that you get out of this, and it really is showing the oak, showing itself, but really great fruit on this as well. Pairings, I mean, my ultimate favorite is lobster and drawn butter with Chardonnay. We do a lobster feed every year in the summer on the Vista Colina lawn, and my favorite thing, I got to make sure I have a big glass of Chardonnay when the lobster comes out, because that's like my ultimate pairing. What do you like pairing with this wine, Sean?
It works with creamy dishes like a fettuccine alfredo, or a chicken with some kind of butter cream sauce is fantastic. Lobster, of course, is just perfection. But it's also a great cocktail wine, what we call it. Just when you just want a nice glass of wine to chill and hang out and just enjoy life. But yeah, I mean, the lobster with drawn butter, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's one of my faves. Well, speaking of wine that's awesome with basically anything, we're going to move into Mysteriama. So I think that it's safe to say this is probably the most unique wine of the flight, and maybe probably the most unique wine that we make. Not because it tastes crazy or anything like that, as you'll find out in a second. It's really about the blend that we do. So we've been making a version of this wine basically since day one. It's been called different things over the years, but we call this one Mysteriama, kind of a play on words because it's a little bit of a mystery what we're going to do with it every year. So the winemaker and I, we start out with literally no rules, all these varietals to work with, and we say, okay, let's figure out how we can make sort of our favorite everyday drinking, really great with food, great by itself, approachable red with focus on kind of bright red fruit, and just not very technical, but just yummy wine that's just soft and awesome. And the fun thing with the 15, which we're trying today, is I think it's the most varietals that's ever made it in the blend. Not by accident, just when we were blending and trying to come up with it, this ended up being the best. We have typically like 4 or 5 varietals that are the core, which typically are Zinfandel, Carignan, Petit Syrah, Mataro, and then sometimes you get like some Alicante Boucher or something a little bit more austere. But those 4 tend to be the core. But you're making the wine. Sometimes you make 30 different variations of it in the cellar, and you're still not where you want to be. So that's we say, you know what? I wonder if we threw a little Merlot in here, right? I wonder if we had through a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and that's what we did this year. So we've got Zinfandel being the leader here. If you just look at the back of the bottle, we'll tell you the blend on it every year, no secret. Then you got Petit Syrah and Carignan after that, and then we did quite a bit of Merlot, 12%, which we don't typically do Merlot at all, and definitely not that much. Mataro, which is a fun kind of unique varietal, also known as Movedra, if you've ever heard of Movedra. Tinto Cow, which is a Portuguese varietal that we get from a grower here in Northern California, and then a little bit of Alicante Boucher to finish it off. but it's a kind of a wild blend. But let's get into it. So what do you get on the nose here, Sean?
I always get like a dark raspberry, dark cherry, but lately I've been getting a lot of like cranberry on it, which is great.
I'm getting like it's kind of all in that family, right? Like I'm getting
Yeah,
today for some reason it's hitting me with like a boysenberry jam,
yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's like kind of a blend of really jammy kind of, you know, uh and not that it's like sweet. I think it's just what I'm thinking of is like the really fresh stuff. So you get that like really beautiful fruit, and it's kind of a spectrum. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's like red fruit, black fruit, blue fruit. It's kind of all in there. There's blackberries. There's
Yeah.
there's all these, cherries, strawberries. There's all these things, but you also are getting some of the what's the word? But like you kind of like the seeds. Like when you like put it on your bread and you kind of bite into a seed, it kind of changes the flavor from that like pure like sweetness and kind of adds
Yeah,
a little herbaceousness or something to it. So like you're getting a little bit of that in there.
yeah.
It's really
This
fun.
this wine, I mean, it's hard not to love this wine. It's we people love this wine. It fits the bill for any mood you're in, any meal you're eating. It's such a crowd pleasing wine. I see a lot of people use this when they don't know what to get for a party or something like that because it's big enough where cab drinkers will love it, and it's soft and low tannins on the finish. So the Pinot drinkers will enjoy it. It's got a little spice with the Zinfandel in there, so it's a lot going on. A lot of red blends that you see at your market are not very complex. They're easy drinking because they're a little bit sweet. Ours is this is I always say it's a real wine. We barrel ferment all these different varietals separately, and then Kevin and Garrett blend it to order or blend it to the vintage. And so it's an on purpose wine. It's not just the leftovers from or a field blend or a house wine. We make this on purpose, always have. So that's why you get so much complexity and just a great structure to this wine because it's not like a leftover wine. We make it on purpose and they knock it out of the park every year.
Yeah, and then when it comes to food, I think it's a fun wine. Like everyone says, "Oh man, you go to Thanksgiving dinner or dinner party or whatever. I don't know what they're making. I don't know what they like. What do I do?" Well, the wine world says bring Pinot because it's kind of the most flexible varietal, right? Well, in our portfolio, you don't know what they're making. You don't know what they like. Bring Mysteriana because if you want to open this up at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon and it's beautiful outside, you want some red wine, delicious. If you want to have salmon, something a little lighter,
Mhm.
it goes great with that. It complements it. And
Yep.
but you want to go really fancy and you have your red wine, you want to have a big steak, it works great with that. But you can dress it down too. It's a great casual dinner wine. Like there's kind of nothing better than for pizza, wine wise, in my view, than Mysteriana.
Yeah, it works with Mexican food and
Yeah.
chili, baby back ribs. It's so versatile.
Barbecue. I know barbecue is like impossible to pair with because sometimes that sauce can be a little sweeter.
Hmm.
And the fruit and kind of the like we were talking about the jams and stuff hold up to it.
I love using my wife's line on this wine. When I pull a bottle out of the cellar for us to drink that night, she's a little bit more picky on what she feels like that night. But she often says, "Do we have any Mysteriana?" Because I'm always in the mood for Mysteriana, and I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more.
yeah. It's your backup go to, always going to work, always in season wine.
Absolutely.
Like even in summer, oh, don't drink whites in the summer. I know this, Sean, but like just put it in the fridge for like 45 minutes to an hour and get a little bit of a chill on it. That's kind of the summer wine hack. And this wine has enough complexity and body and things going on that it's awesome, even with a little chill on it, and it's more refreshing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, cheers to that. Well, now we gotta move into the one of my favorites, the Meritage. So you go, huh, interesting.
Mm.
Meritage. Well, the name of the resort is Meritage. Well, there's no coincidence there. So let's talk a minute about the history of what Meritage means, and then Sean, I'll let you jump into the wine side of it. So Meritage is it's not Meritage as many people think. It's actually an American word that's made up. It's the combination of the words merit and heritage put together. So the American wine community, we try to make wines that are comparable to, France, and Napa. It has a very similar climate. We can grow Bordeaux, Burgundy, and all these different French grapes comparably. And the penultimate French wine, and arguably one of the most known and famous wines in the world, is Bordeaux. Well, we happen to make all those varietals, doing really great here in Napa Valley. And so these winemakers started making back in the 60s, 70s, I mean, way before, since the beginning of winemaking here. Napa is known for Cabernet Sauvignon, et cetera, but we started making these blends, and they're more similar to, Bordeaux, which typically Bordeaux's are never, or not never, but they're very rarely 100% varietal. Well, back in the 70s, it's less so now, making a blend and putting red blend or whatever on a label, it's not single varietal. For some reason, the culture in America and New World generally is very single varietal focused versus, Old World is very region focused. So they said, we need a name to set this apart, the style of winemaking. So they had a contest, and the winner was Meritage. The words merit and heritage. Merit because of the quality, the high quality, the great merit of the wine, and heritage, giving a note to the history and the backstory behind this style of blending going back to France in Bordeaux. So there also is a classification that it limits what you can put in the wine when you actually put the Meritage name on it. You can only have the 5 noble Bordeaux red varietals. So Cabernet Sauvignon, which everybody knows, Merlot, which everybody knows, and then you can have Cabernet Franc. You can have Petit Verdot, and oh man, what's the 5th one? I'm blanking.
Malbec.
Oh, how can I forget Malbec? So you can have those 5, and so this vintage, the 2014, we actually have all 5. And what's fun about it is, some of it comes from the estate, which I'm sitting in right now, and some comes from some of the other sources throughout Napa Valley that we get, those 5 varietals from. We end up aging it all in French oak. This wine is typically about 50 to 60% new French oak. Our straight up cabs tend to be a little bit higher, but we really want the fruit to show through here. And we age it in barrel for almost 2 years. So it's one of our premium wines, premium blends. And Meritage and these Bordeaux inspired blends were my father's favorite, and still some of his, and now my favorite wines coming out of Napa Valley. And so when we went to go name the hotel back in 2004, he said, we got to make it Meritage because that's my favorite wine that Napa Valley produces. And it's kind of a blend of all the greatness that is the Napa Valley and all these great varietals into one wine. So Sean, you want to talk a little bit about Meritage and winemaking and flavors and everything you're getting?
Yeah, I mean, this is the wine you probably came to Napa to try. Most people come to Napa, they want to try big Napa cabs and whatnot, and this is what that is. If you like Cabernet, you'll love Meritage. Like Garrett just spoke about how it's a Bordeaux blend, but it's big, powerful, robust, all those big words that everybody in Napa uses, but this thing just knocks it out of the park. You get way more complexity because of all that, the blend of all those varietals, and the amazing quality and length of the oak we use on this wine. Just that deep, rich color as well. I mean, everything about this is big. The nose is big. You get all those dark fruits. You get a little graham cracker crust in there, which I love. And then the palate is, again, a lot of dark fruit, some dark chocolate notes. You get a little bit of dark raspberry, dark, almost like a super ripe strawberry today, which usually I don't say, but this one today it does. But the nose is amazing. It's big. The palate is just, mouth filling. Then the finish is just everlasting. I mean, it's a lot of new oak on this, and which adds that lengthy finish that just goes on forever. I mean, you can squish it in your mouth for 30 seconds, swallow it, and then you'll be enjoying it for 5 minutes if you do nothing. It's terrific.
Yeah, and what I love about this wine too, because trust me, I love the big Napa cab and everything, and I drink a lot of that just as much as the next guy. But what I love about Meritage, well, at least for us, not everyone's the same, right? But it's kind of the more finesse wine. So it's definitely got cab represented, but we're also like massaging it and getting the edges round and beautiful. And you know, what I love about it is, I mean, I'm sitting here, you know, with no food. You know, Napa Cat, like you should probably have a steak or something with some of the big guys, but you know, it's just enjoyable, and I love it. It's always what we always go for in this wine from a texture perspective, which I think is really critical, is that like velvet, silky palate, which I just think is awesome on this wine. So it's a little bit easier on some of those. Like, oh, cabs are too big for me. This is a great crowd pleaser from that perspective, but it also just adds this layer of complexity because you start getting in and go, oh, well, oh, there's the Cab Franc hiding behind the Merlot. You know what I mean? It just there's a lot of things happening in it, which I think is fun, and it's enjoyable, you know, and it's not as in your face.
It absolutely has that wow factor. I see it constantly where people try it and then they all take a sip at the same time. And they look at each other and go, "Wow!"
Yeah.
It's just big, but soft at the same time. It's just perfection. I can't say it enough.
Awesome. Well, we're getting to the end of our flight. Obviously, if you have more wine, keep enjoying. Thanks, Sean, for joining me. This has been super fun, and you know we thank all of you for taking the time, enjoying this in your room, or maybe out on the lawn, or up in the vineyard. Who knows? But you know, enjoy this. You know, I welcome you. We welcome you to come to Trinitas. We're open every day. You can come and revisit these and have the live version, or like I said, we make typically upwards of 25 different wines each vintage, and so you know, a mix of those are available in the tasting room. We have a lot of fun stuff. You can even do a breakdown of the Meritage. We do an all single varietal Bordeaux varietal tasting, which is super fun. So you can see what each adds to the blend. But anyway, come see us. And you know, as a thank you for joining us from your rooms or wherever you are, you know, come to the tasting room or go online and use the code Meritage20. You get 20% off your first wine order with us as a little thank you. We really appreciate it. And you know, just enjoy your time here on property. Enjoy your time in the Napa Valley. We're so happy to have you. You're our guests. And we hope you come back and see us again. But in the meantime, cheers. Cheers, Sean.
Cheers to you.